Okay, so that became a book, Shiurim B'Sefer Tanya. Now those initial lessons were in Yiddish. They were for the Yiddish-speaking crowd, religious crowd. So much so the Rebbe himself would listen to the Tanya Shir on the radio of my grandfather giving it, which was completely off the charts. I'm saying like this was an incredible privilege that he had. It was put together in a book called Shiurim B'Sefer Tanya in Yiddish. Then that book was translated by my dad into this book. It's called Lessons in Tanya. Him and my uncle translated it, and they put it in English. And while he was translating it, I was born.
Originally, it was which language it was written?
She wrote it in Yiddish, because the classes were given on the radio in Yiddish for the Yiddish-speaking community in New York at the time.
And you may try to translate it kind of not word for word, but in the same message that was being done in Yiddish.
Sure.
It was in the book.
Sure.
So it wasn't another version of it.
No, not at all. It was a translation because the Rebbe had edited each class. They wanted to keep as close to the original form of those classes which were taught online, instead of losing some by changing. So yeah, I was born, and my dad was working on the Tanya, and he was really living with the Tanya day by day. He was appreciating the Tanya in a whole other way, and he wanted to name me after the Alter Rebbe, the author of the Tanya. So I have a very special privilege to have been to have this name, and even more so to be able to teach Tanya, which is a real opportunity. They say certain things you inherit, right? You can inherit things, but certain things, they're just the responsibility, but you can't inherit them. And this is one of those things. For me, it's just the responsibility that I need to learn Tanya. I can't inherit the knowledge. I have to really live up to with that I've, thank God, had the opportunity to the privilege to be named. Okay, so that's the Tanya. Took 20 years to learn, and like I said, we're going to learn it in 6 weeks together. Everyone has a chance to introduce themselves. Nathaniel, go for it. Nathaniel. From?
Israel,
now Battersea. Okay. You've already given that to that. You moved on. Nathaniel was living around the corner, and then he moved to Battersea. But he's still around the corner. He comes. And?
I'm Любовь. I'm from Russia. I'm originally, but I've been living here for a while.
Okay. Good. Okay. So let's get on. So we started off describing that this course is different in the sense that it's all one book, the book of Tanya. And when this course was being formulated, there's someone by the name of Rabbi Shais Taub. I don't know if anyone's come about Rabbi Shais Taub. You know Rabbi Shais Taub. Rabbi Shais Taub has got a lot of stuff online. An amazing orator, an amazing teacher. It's actually coming to London soon, and I can share with you when that is. He was the author of this course. And when this course was being formulated, so the JLI said to him, okay, so what are you going to leave out? You know, you're putting a 6-week course of the Tanya, what are you going to leave out? So Rabbi Taub said, you know, when he said that question way down on him, because when the Tanya was actually published, there was one of the Hasidic rabbis, his name was Rabbi Levi Yitzchak of Barditchev. He got a copy of the Tanya, and he expressed the Tanya like this. He said, unbelievable how the author of the Tanya, Rabbi Shneur Zalman, was able to take such a great God and put him into such a small book. So if you want to appreciate the greatness of the Tanya is dense, the Tanya is packed, there's so much there. So straight away, what are you going to leave out? How do you deal with that even? And the truth is, sometimes Tanya is described as an encyclopedia of Jewish spirituality, which it is that. It's got an enormous amount of ideas of fundamentals within Jewish spirituality. But the Tanya ultimately is a program. It's a program. It's something that's meant to be followed. It's something, it's describing something to do, not just to study. And it's really a practical and a systematic approach to self-mastery, to perfection, not just an academic book. So with that in mind,
Can it help with ADHD?
can it help with ADHD? It can.
Okay.
I don't think you struggle with ADHD.
Oh, I
Yeah.
I really good.
Okay. So so what we're going, what essentially we've done here in the courses is what we're taking the key elements of this program of Tanya, and we're going to do it. So what does it mean doing them? That means every week that we're going to study together, we have a whole week to put that class into practice. And come the next week, we're gonna then encounter the next thing. Now, this number 6, why were 6 classes? Well, the truth is there's actually six stages in this process of doing Tanya. Now, I want to take you to text 1, which is on page 2. If you have the text from that I shared with you. Okay, so here, this is, how do I know that the Alter Rebbe, as he's known as the old Rebbe, the author of the Tanya, intended that Tanya should be something that we do and not just something that we study. And it's a program like I described, because in his introduction, that's how he described it. Listen, look at text 1. I address those who know me well, with whom affectionate words were often exchanged in private audience, and revealed to me all the hidden recesses of their hearts and minds in matters related to the service of God. Okay. So first of all, the Alter Rebbe is saying basically, who's he talking to? Who did he describe he's talking to here?
Closer.
A close circle of people. Okay. What else? He knows them. How does he know them? Part of his community. Okay. Anything else?
They seem to be committed to being in active contact with Hashem.
Okay. And they want to know about service of God. Absolutely. And he says, how do I know them well? Because they shared with me the hidden recesses of the heart. These are people who came to me to discuss, to explore. They wanted to know more. They wanted to understand. And they shared. They were seeking. And they came to me to consult. Any profession you do, anything you want to do, you train, you have a master that you go to. And same thing in spirituality. These were his students who were looking to improve and on a spiritual journey, and they would go to their Rebbe and discuss their spiritual master, to go and discuss their spiritual journey. And they would unburden themselves, they would share their struggles, they would share the deepest stuff that maybe you wouldn't share with other people, and the Alter Rebbe would advise. That's a process known as Yechidut. Yechidut is a soul-bearing kind of consultation, so to speak, a soul-bearing process where a Chassid goes to his Rebbe and has a one-on-one, a soul talk. That's what this is, the Alter Rebbe is describing. These are people who came to me for these soul talks, and I guided them. They came to me for Yechidus. Now, let's continue. All of these compiled sayings are answers to many questions posed continually by our fellows, seeking advice, each according to their stature in their service of God, so as to receive guidance for themselves in the service of God. Because time no longer permits me to reply to everyone individually on his particular query, and also because the advice heard in private audiences may be forgotten, I recorded all the replies to all the questions. Continue, no longer will they need to press for a private audience, for in these Likkutei Amarim, collected discourses, they will find tranquility for their souls and true counsel on everything that they find difficult in the service of God. Wow. Essentially, what the Alter Rebbe is saying is saying, I'm writing a book that's going to have all the spiritual answers. That's pretty. How do I know what the struggles are? Because you've told me what the struggles are. Why am I writing this book? Why does he describe he's writing the book?
He has no time to repeat the answer, just state it.
Okay, so he doesn't have the time anymore to literally tell and some. Yeah.
It also sounds like he believes, if not expects, that many people unknown of similar type of struggles and experiences. So he wants to spread the message to as many people as possible to benefit from the questions that were posed.
Beautiful. So this way, people who have similar struggles will be able to identify them. Good. And essentially, the Alter Rebbe is saying that anyone who opens the Tanya will find tranquility for their souls and true counsel on everything they found difficult in the service of God. That's anyone. That means me and you, all of us. This concept of going into Yechidut, it was like this process of having your own spiritual master, sitting down, hearing, bearing your soul, opening yourself up. This is what I'm struggling with. The Tanya is addressing that. The Tanya has the answers to that, yeah.
You say Yechidut. I already written down because I was going to ask you a question about the word. I don't think it's the same word, but it's the same name. Is Hasidut, does that refer to teachings within the Hasidic realm or specifically Chabad?
Okay.
I've seen it talked about specifically amongst the Chabad community.
Good. Excellent question. What is Hasidus? In a simple answer, Hasidus is a body of teachings within the Jewish body of teachings, which takes the mystical dimensions of Torah and makes them accessible and practical. That's what Hasidus sought to do. To bring to maybe many people are familiar with Kabbalah, for example. Kabbalah is inaccessible. Kabbalah is difficult. Kabbalah is a body of teachings which is very esoteric. But Hasidus it does bring the mystical from Kabbalah, from beyond Kabbalah. It brings the whole Torah together and making it practical and accessible, and really bringing light and warmth to much of Torah practice instead of things with that infusion. Kind of thinking about it like everything is infused with a new life through a lens of Hasidus because of this teaching. So here the Alter Rebbe is writing this book, and this is going to have the answers. Why 6 classes? Because the process is like this. And what we're doing together is 6 classes, because there's really 6 stages in Tanya. A person goes, they do the first step, they actualize it, and what happens? You've actualized a first step. Now you discover, something I wasn't struggling with before. Now, how do I deal with this now? So there's the following. And once you've kind of reached a certain thing and you're following the program, right? And you kind of bring yourself to a new place and you're like, but how do I deal with this? And really, Tanya, if you want to split it up, it splits into 6 separate sections. What we're going to do tonight is chapters 1 to 8. There's 53 chapters. We're going to do tonight chapters 1 to 8. Okay? Now, in order to enter this world of Tanya, Tanya is going to open up a new world for us. It's going to give us a new understanding of ourselves, of God, and of the universe. Okay? Now, in order to be able to navigate this new world and relate to ourselves, and we need the lexicon that's going to help us navigate this world. So, new terms that maybe we're not familiar with. We're going to have to get familiar with in order to be able to follow this and understand this new world that the Alter Rebbe is opening up for us. And what we're going to focus on tonight is exactly that. Chapters 1 to 8 in Tanya often are the chapters where people get lost, where students get lost, because you open up Tanya and you want to start, where's the practical, where's, the instructional stuff, and it's not there. Tanya opens up technical. Why does it open up technical? It's like the instruction manual. I was reading to the kid, teaching the kids how to play Risk. And these days you learn these. You ever teach your kids how to play these board games? It's like you have to be like a Talmudic scholar just to follow the rules and this and that. It's like serious stuff. Anyways, you have to teach them the pieces and how each piece moves. And in fact, you teach kids chess also, right? It's a whole thing. So the first part, your kid can get lost. I want to play the game. You're teaching you all these things. In a similar kind of vein, that's what's happening here. The first 8 chapters we're learning the lexicon that's going to help us follow forward and open up this world for us. Okay? And then, that's pretty much what's going to be the gist and the driving force of tonight's class. So let's start with the first question that a spiritual seeker, the person who's looking to grow spiritually, is going to be asking. What is that question? Question is, I'm trying to improve. I'm trying to grow. I'm trying to be the best version of myself that I can. But it doesn't always work. So I make a resolution that I'm going to do this and this and this, and then I fall. I don't hold up that resolution. Or I decide that, certain behaviors are completely not appropriate for me, but then I find myself being drawn after those behaviors again. So what's going on with me? Am I a fraud? This whole journey of, on the one hand, myself being totally committed to a journey of self-growth and spiritual growth. On the other hand, it ain't matching up in the real world. It's not happening. How do we resolve that in the conflict? Can you relate? Huh? Fully? We all, yeah. This is the inner conflict of life.
Human condition.
Human condition. Exactly. Okay. Let's take a look at the first idea that chapter 1 in Tanya introduces us to. And we're going to, in order to answer this question, we have to get to understand our makeup. Understand how are we made up? What's our inner workings? What's the anatomy of our inner selves? So let's take a look, page 5, text 2. Nir, you want to read for us?
In Hebrew or English?
English.
Every Jew, irrespective of his or spiritual standing, possesses 2 souls, as it is written, and Neshomot souls have made. Isaiah 57:16. There are 2 souls. One originates in unholiness, and this is the soul that is clothed in the blood of a human being to give life to the body. As it is written, for the soul of the flesh it is the blood. From Leviticus 17:11. From this soul stems all of the evil, as well as the naturally good traits. For this soul of non-holiness is derived from a neutral level of non-holiness, which also contains good.
Okay. The first important teaching that we're learning here in the Tanya is that each person has 2 souls. The first soul is known as, what's it called?
Animal soul.
Animal soul. Why is it called the animal soul? Does it behave like an animal?
That would behave like that.
But we're humans. The first soul is called the animal soul because, like an animal, its drives are purely selfish. It's the soul that ultimately is the life force of our physical body. It's the soul that keeps us alive. Where is the soul clothed? Where does it reside? Based on the text you just read, where is it found?
The body.
In the
What?
the blood.
What the blood?
So the blood, the life force, the life-giving, pumping through us, that's where the soul is found. It's the soul that gives us alive. It makes us alive.
We lost you again.
Yeah. Oh, you can't hear us?
Oh, now you're back. Now you're back.
Great.
Lost the audio again, but now it's fine.
Okay. Yeah.
Maybe you repeat the animal soul.
Where did you lost something? You missed out something?
After blood, exactly.
Okay. So this is the life-giving soul. It's the soul which animates us. It's like an animal in the sense that it's all about self-preservation. Yeah.
It's not necessarily a bad thing.
Not necessarily a bad thing at all. It's not necessarily a bad thing, but it's selfish. I'm saying the reality is, if we weren't selfish, then we wouldn't be alive and look after ourselves. We need to have that to be able to eat, to be able to look after our needs, and it's the success and the ambition and everything. It's all coming from the animal soul. Also, it's the animal soul in the sense this is the instinctive side of us. This is the side of us that drives our instincts. It's like what our instinct to live, our instinct to achieve, our instinct to have desires and pleasures and all those things. Those are coming from the animal soul. Again, did we say that it was? We haven't described this animal soul as bad. It's not a bad soul. It's not evil.
Yeah, it says,
That what?
from the soul stands of evil, as well as the naturally good things.
Good. So there's even good that comes from the soul. Except there's one thing that's motivating the soul, it's selfishness. So if the animal soul is going to be good, think about the mother bird who flies and brings her baby food, feeds her chick. You can say, oh, what a lovely mother bird. She's such a good mom. That's her instinct. The mom goes and she flies and she feeds her kid. The beaver goes and he works and he builds himself. Oh, what incredibly hard-working beavers. If only we had more people. This is what is his instinct. You know, this is no two questions. This is how it's the basic. The animal soul is like the primal desire. Is our basic, essential desires that make us human. That's the animal soul. Common denominator of all the things, huh? Survival, absolutely. Common denominator of all of them is it's based on selfishness. It's based on what's beneficial to itself. That's what it does. Think about an animal. An animal is that there's no concept of altruistic animals. Animals don't behave in altruistic kind of ways. Animals do things for their survival, for the benefit of themselves. And if you're in the way and they need to go then you're going to get pushed out of the way. In that sense, that's what's called the animal soul. It's the very primal behaviors. Yeah?
Are there specific names for them in Hebrew? Because here it says two neshama.
Good.
Both of them are neshama.
Both of them are souls. And at this point, this is called the nefesh habahamit. The hema is an animal.
Mm-hmm.
So nefesh habahamit is the animal soul.
Okay.
Yeah? You can see, yeah. Okay. So far, we've described which soul? Animal soul. How many souls do we say we have? 2. So now we need to get to the next soul. The next soul is a very different kind of soul. The next soul, let's read together on page 6, text 3. Nathaniel, go for it.
But the second soul of the Jew is truly a part of God above, as it is written concerning Adam, and God breathed into his nostrils the soul of life. And as we say in the morning prayers, you breathe my soul into me. It is written in the Zohar, when one exhales, he exhales from deep within him, that is, he exhales from his innermost being, for it is of his innermost vitality that a person needs to examine his forth.
Okay. So can describe this second soul to me. The second soul, what is it?
From God, holy.
Okay. Holy from God. Which part of God?
Breath.
Breath. What does that demonstrate? The fact that it's God's breath.
Life.
Life. Even more so, that is exhales from an innermost being. You ever try to blow balloons up for an hour? You're going to be finished. Breath is an expression of coming from a very deep place. The description here is neshama, is neshima. They're actually, those two words are interrelated, a breath, and this neshama, this is often referred to as the neshama, which is, this is part of God himself. This is not from God. This is actually a part of God. Expressed in the sense that we see God blows, he gives a part of himself into Adam, and this is the godly soul.
Those are nothing you can touch or feel.
Nothing you can touch. The
It's
first soul,
something you can understand and appreciate,
absolutely.
but it's much more of a, or something esoteric. Because
More esoteric.
it's traveling from God into each of us.
Absolutely. I think the animal soul, it's important to realize, is also, it's not tangible. Something we experience, it's something we relate to.
But in my experience,
So,
the things that I may seek with my animal soul are often, if not
much
always,
less esoteric.
things that I can touch.
Good.
Things that I can
Absolutely right.
feel,
Absolutely.
things that I can use, things that have immediate purpose or value.
Right. Things which are more instinctive to the
me.
human condition.
To me.
Absolutely right. Absolutely right. Okay? So, this is the godly soul, just to bring it out for us. This is the soul which completely different from the animal soul. It is the soul which is selfless. It's not about selfishness. It's the soul which is selfless. It's the soul. Let's take a look at the contrasting the two souls. Page 7. Learning exercise 2. So we got here all these words, and if you put them on the table, if we can put these side by side on the table, how's that going to play out? Animal soul and godly soul. Let's do this together. So on the where will the selfish go?
Animal soul,
Animal soul side. What's the corresponding in the godly soul?
altruistic.
Altruistic. Altruistic is opposite of selfish. Altruistic is doing something. What does altruistic mean?
To be for others, right?
Doing something for others, expecting something in return?
No.
That's the whole point of altruism, right? Doing something just because it's the right thing to do, not because I want anything in return. It's not selfish. Next is embodied in the blood. What is that? Where does that belong? Godly soul?
Your body and blood portion, animal soul.
Animal soul embodied in blood. What would be the corresponding on the next on the chart for the godly soul? Breathed into us, yes. The godly soul is it's breathed into us. We're demonstrated in the idea that this is something from God himself deep within us. Okay? Seeks pleasure. Where's that? Animal soul. What would be the corresponding in the seeks godliness? Okay. Primal soul. Where does primal soul go? Animal soul. Okay. And second soul is godly soul. Interesting. Why is it like that? It's important to realize that the animal soul is the primal soul. That's what you're born with. The baby is born with his animal soul. You ever a baby, what he cries, he's, my kids, my baby's waking up in the middle of the night, he doesn't think about, am I going to wake up mom? And he needs to eat, there's no jokes. He even cries in the middle of the night, there's no two ways about it, it's a survival thing, right? When do you think we actually get, why is it called the second soul? When do we get our animal soul, our godly souls? Is it at birth? Which soul comes to us at birth? The animal soul, because it's the soul that gives us life. Without the animal soul, we're not alive. It's like the difference between a corpse and a living thing. It has to have a soul. Which soul is that? That's the soul of life, which gives us basic physical human life, is the animal soul. So when do we get the godly soul?
At a certain point, it's more of a process. You need to grow and I need to learn.
The godly soul.
Yeah.
Okay, so you're saying we have it right from the beginning, but in a certain sense we might not be in touch with it from the beginning. Interesting. We're actually told we get the godly soul at a certain point. You aren't born with the godly soul. It comes into an individual at a certain point. When do you think that would be? 3. Good guess. 3 when they start educating. Okay. Yes. Do you want to know what people often think of Brit Milah? No, actually, bar and bat mitzvah. Why do we become obligated in doing mitzvot at a bar and bat mitzvah age? Because now we have a godly soul. The whole concept of mitzvot is truly applicable to us. We could do things for God now. There's the part of us within us, which is the godly soul, which wants to be united with God. Those are the mitzvot. And that's what happens at a bar bat mitzvah. You don't know why they do some big parties. People do it because get our godly soul. There's the reason to party.
Isn't it the case that somebody, whether they become bar bat mitzvah, quote unquote, properly or not,
Absolutely.
when they turn 13 or 12 as a woman, possibly, depending on your understanding, then they become bar bat mitzvah, regardless of whether they've gone through any service and the practice and the
Exactly.
The
The bar and bat mitzvah is a fact. It's not a celebrate it. You didn't celebrate it. It's not. You're right. I'm actually learning with the bar mitzvah kid now, and I asked him, "Do you think someone who didn't have a bar mitzvah is Jewish?" So we have to think for a second, and we become the celebration becomes so part of me. If you didn't have a bar mitzvah, you can't be Jewish. It's just a celebration. That's the fact. The fact is, you turn 12, you turn 13, you are now an adult in Judaism because now you're able to make a true choice. Why? Because you live in a godly soul.
And you're
This whole experience of right.
Yeah.
Yeah. There's obviously the celebrations which are important, etc., but ultimately it's a fact. It's not something that you will do for the bar mitzvah. It's a stage in life that you reach.
Well, you said they're important. They're possibly important to the family for the traditions, but for the actual bar mitzvah stage in life,
Sure.
it happens
Ultimately.
when you wake up that day.
Third. And finally, let's just look at these last 2 here. Relates to the transcendent and relates to the natural, like you were saying in a certain sense. The godly soul relates to the transcendent. It's godly. It's all about transcendence. It's all about experiencing things beyond yourself. Whereas the animal soul is all about experience our natural self. Yeah? Okay. Yeah?
idea of how bat mitzvah came from. It's not mentioned in the Torah. It's mentioned in the Torah is Brit Milah, but nothing about bar mitzvah that a kid grows to be a man and receives his godly soul.
The concept of a person becoming from katan to an ish, which is really the transformation of him being from a minor to an adult, at which point does that happen? So that's from the Torah where we find for the first time people being referred to by the title man, and their age is understood that they were 13 at the time. So this transformation that the Torah tells us, this is now when a person is considered a man. Then so it's sourced in the written Torah, and from Torah Shabbat Peh in the oral Torah, the exact age and how it works is obviously through oral tradition about the difference. But the celebration of a bar and bat mitzvah and the whole celebration, the Talmud does speak about that people would make a celebration on the day that they became bar mitzvah. That idea, but compared to what it is today, it was an occasion, but it wasn't like today they say, the focus is on the bar, you forget about the mitzvah, which is really opposite of the point of bar mitzvah. Okay, let's
I
get
have a question if I can.
Sure.
Hopefully a small one. How do you define true altruism? As in, sometimes we do an act which seems altruistic, but behind it, it just makes us feel good. So really, the very core, it's not purely altruistic. So how do you define that?
Excellent question. Let's put your question on hold, and as we're going to progress, we'll hopefully address your
Okay.
question. If you still have it, we'll get back to it. Okay. So we have two souls. Now, these are two complex things. A soul is not just some hazy kind of thing. It's a soul. A soul is a complex spiritual thing. It's like, imagine, I'm saying, in your body, you go to the doctor says, what's wrong with you? You say, there's something wrong with my body. Is he going to be able to help you? There's something wrong with your body. Be a little more specific. Your body's a complex thing. Jackie Mason, you guys have heard of Jackie Mason? Yeah? America, everyone knows Jackie Mason. In the UK, people know Jackie Mason? Annabelle, you know Jackie Mason? No? Okay. So in America, he was like the comedian, the classic Jewish, super Jewish comedian. If you want to go online, watch some Jackie Mason clips, they're funny. Stereotype of the Jew.
He makes a Broadway or this whole thing.
Yeah, he was on Broadway, exactly. He passed away not long ago. Anyways, so one of his jokes he tells, a Jewish couple driving down the road, and suddenly the car breaks down. So the guy goes to the front and he checks and he looks and he goes to his wife and she says, I think it's something under the hood that's the problem. That's the Jew. He looks at that's how he understands it, mechanics, something under the hood. That's not going to help you. So when it comes to our soul and understanding the inner workings, we need to get how does this all work? And the text 4 tells us an important thing about the soul's makeup. Page 8. Victoria, Georgia, one of you want to read for us? You have it? If
The
you got
soul
it.
consists of 10 faculties corresponding to the 10 supernal sephirot from which they derive.
Okay, who's heard of Sephirot before? Yeah, you've heard of Sephirot? Take a look at page 9. You've heard of it.
Yeah, what it is.
First real Chabad.
First 3 are Chabad, exactly. If you want to know what Chabad is, they're an acronym for the first 3 Sephirot. So Sephirot are interfaces, ultimately. They, the way an infinite God relates to a finite world is through the Sephirot, through 10 interfaces, so to speak, 10 different ways, and those are the 10 sefirot. Now, the soul mirrors those 10 sefirot. It also has 10 faculties to it, corresponding to the 10 sefirot, which are the supernal sefirot of Hashem. So we have within us the cognitive, 3 cognitive abilities, and then there's 7 emotive elements to us. That's the makeup of the soul. There's sechel and midot. There's the 3 seichel, the 3 cognitive elements, which are Chabad, Chachma, Bin, and Dat, and then you have the 7 midot, 7 emotions, which are Chesed, Vur, Tiferet, Netzach, Hod, Yesod, Malchut. So this is what the soul is. You want to know what the soul is? It's made up of. Now, we're obviously going to talk about there's going to be differences. The animal soul is going to have its cognitive and its emotion, and then there's the godly soul, which is going to have its cognitive and its emotion, which are going to be pretty different. Fair to say, based on what we know about the godly soul and animal soul by now?
Well, very simply, for example, on a selfish basis, wisdom can be used in one way, where in a selfless basis, wisdom will be used in a much different.
Correct.
Is one example.
Absolutely right. Okay, so let's take a look. But one thing we have to remember is, if I have a soul with its emotional elements, with its intellectual elements, am I experiencing my soul at any given time during the day? How do you experience your soul? Your soul is any soul. The way we relate to our soul, how do we experience the soul? We relate to it through its garments, through its clothes. The soul has to put on clothes in order for it to be seen, so to speak. It has to be, imagine you've got the program installed on your computer, but unless you're running the program, it's just on the hard drive. It doesn't do anything, right? So we got 2 souls in our computer program, but they're just there until we run the soul. How do we run the soul? That's text 5, the garments of the soul. We're holding already chapter 4 in Tanya. You've gone through the first soul, chapter 1. The second soul, the godly soul, chapter 2. The third and the fourth soul are describing the makeup of the soul. The third chapter describes the makeup, the actual soul itself. The fourth chapter talks about the garments of the soul. Let's take a look. Annabelle, you have it? You have the text or no?
I have it here. Yeah. You want me to read it?
Go for it. Text 5.
Okay. Page.
10.
Page 10.
Thank you. In addition to its faculties, every godly soul possesses 3 garments. They are thought, speech, and action as they find expression in the 613 commandments of the Torah.
Okay. This is describing the garments of the godly soul. The garments of the godly soul are thought, speech, and action. That's the interface. That's the way we run the soul. How do we access our soul? Through thought, through speech, and through action.
They help manifest itself.
Correct. So it's like tapping into which soul. Now, when you're talking about the godly soul, so what are those thoughts, speech, and actions? It's all as they find expression in the 613 commandments of the Torah. They're completely all in the mitzvot. That if you're thinking about a mitzvah, if you're talking about it, if you're talking words of Torah, if you're doing a mitzvah, you're acting out your godly soul. This part of your being, which wants nothing else except to be connected with God. That's what the godly soul is. It's got this burning desire to connect to God. And when does it express itself? When it's connecting to God. Through thought, speech, and action of mitzvot. Yeah.
And that's if and when, hopefully, I or somebody else is not rushing to do what their instinct may have them do,